Hello everyone, it's Elaine for Crafting Desert Divas. Today I'm going to be sharing this super cute card I made using one of the stamps from the new September release. So first of all, I have taken a piece of Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock and my Blueprint Sketch Distress ink, and I'm putting ink all over that background. I'm not going to worry too much about getting a really even smooth blend because I am going to be distressing it with water and paints later on. So I'm just quickly and roughly getting all of that ink onto the paper. Next I take some water onto a paintbrush and I tap that all over the background piece and blot that up with a piece of paper towel. This is one of my coffee filter papers, but kitchen roll or a cloth would do. And then I decide to go back into that piece of cardstock again with some chipped sapphire just to darken up one edge to make it a sky scene. I tap on some more water and also blot that up, giving the effect of stars. Then I take my Copic opaque white onto an acrylic block, mix it in with some water or with an old paintbrush, and then flick that all over the cardstock. And once I'm happy with the amount of stars that I have on my background, I leave that to dry. And next I'm moving on to my colouring. So I've taken some more of that Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock and I've heat embossed with clear embossing powder and VersaFine Onyx Black ink onto that cardstock, and I'm using my Zig Clean Colour Real Brush markers to colour this image in. I have really sped it up about 4 or 5 times, and I will list below in the description box all of the colours I've used today. I like using my water brush to pull out that colour, and as you can see I've got a towel or microfiber cloth off to the side, and I use that to dab off lot of the colour to create a nice smooth faded out effect. This is the colour brown, which I thought worked perfectly for my little squirrel. My water brush was giving me a few problems today. It was really wet, so I ended up with quite a lot of water on my paper, but you can use a paper towel to try and dry that up if that happens to you as well. And sometimes when I don't want a colour to be too vibrant or too pigmented, so the pink on the cheeks, I pop it onto this is my non-porous mat that I'm working on, and I just scribble the colour onto there, and then I pick it up with the water brush and put it to my paper, and it gives a much more subtle effect. I'm now taking some purples for my bow and the hat on my squirrel, and I'm always tapping off that colour to the side. And that's what you can see me doing every time I take my paintbrush away from or my water pen away from the paper. Again, I just want a much more subtle effect on that grey in the mouth, so I've popped a bit of colour onto my non-porous surface and picked it up with the water brush. Now moving on to her dress, again I've used the same purple for her dress as on her hat. And I haven't been using my zigs for very long, only a few months, and I'm really enjoying using them. I like them for colouring images more quickly than I do my Copics. Copics take me a long time to colour, just for me personally, not for everybody. But if I want to colour something fairly quickly, then I like to use my Zig Clean Colour Real Brush markers and a water brush. Just again using that black and dark grey for her cape. And her buttons. Just going over that hat again because I did get quite a lot of water from my water brush onto the paper, so I wanted to darken that area up a little. And moving on to my little ghost, just using a light blue just to give a little bit of colour, even though he is a ghost. Popping on some little pink cheeks, using that pink off to the side. And there is my colouring finished. I'm just taking my white gel pen. I don't find it works so well when I've used my zigs. And there she is, all done. So I fussy cut her out off camera and moving on to the background of my card. So I've taken these trees from the Landscape Borders 2 die. Again, I'll have that listed and linked below for you. And I'm cutting out 3 of those from some black cardstock. I also want some grass for my scene, so I'm taking another one of those dies from the Landscape 2 set and cutting that out on some black glitter. This is glitter paper, but you could use black cardstock, whatever you have to hand. So now I'm just sort of having a play around with all of the images that I've cut out and all of the pieces I have, and just working out where I think I'm going to put them to create my scene. And at this point I didn't know I was going to make a shaker card, but as I'm playing around with my pieces I decided that's what I was going to do. So I take my inside rectangle dies and I cut out a frame, and then I take just a stencil brush and I lightly brush on some black soot. I didn't want anything too dark, so I'm using a really light hand, and this is just a small stencil brush. It was really cheap, just from my local craft store. And I've taken that largest die from the inside scallop rectangle set, and I'm going to cut out that scallop border on my grass piece. And you'll see in a minute how that's all going to fit together. So now I need to think about my sentiment. So I pop everything into my MISTI, and then I take one of the sentiments from the same stamp set and I cut my sentiment stamp. I don't always do this, but I couldn't get it to fit on, and I thought this would be the easiest way, and I can just put them back together if I want them in a long strip in the future. So then I take my embossing body, my Versamark ink, and I just stamp that down onto that background piece. Next I take some super fine detail white embossing powder from Ranger and heat set that first line of the sentiment. And then I go ahead and just add on that other piece that I cut off. Just lined that up in my MISTI and repeated the same process just to finish off that sentiment. I put some double-sided adhesive all over the back of my frame and applied a piece of acetate over the top, cut to the same size. And then I wanted my trees to look a little bit different. I didn't want them to all look the same, so I'm just trimming off some of those extra branches just to get a bit of variation. And then I glue those onto my scene and trim them down. I used my Nuvo liquid adhesive for that, onto my background piece, along with where that sentiment is. Next I'm applying some more double-sided adhesive to the front of that acetate and frame and secure down my grass, and then go ahead and pop on some foam tape all over the back of that frame. I've cut this foam tape in half. This was some Scotch 3M foam tape and it was a little too wide, so I just trimmed it in half and then applied it all over the back, just one layer. So then I take my embossing buddy and I just put that all around the edge inside so my sequins don't stick. I remove that release paper and put it to one side, and then I can start filling my card with the sequins. I will list all of the sequin packs that I use below. And then I took a quickie glue pen and applied some dots of glue all over the background and secured down some of the smaller sequins and stars, so that when you shake it and it's standing up, there is still some shimmer and glitz in the background and they aren't all hidden behind the grass. So there we go. You can see I've sadly missed filming me applying that frame over the top, but I just lined it up over those sequins, and then I can glue on my little squirrel. And secure her down. And there my card is almost finished. I need to secure it to a card base, so I've taken an A2 sized card base, and I'm now popping on some more Nuvo liquid adhesive all over the back quite generously and securing that down to my card. And that is the card finished for today. I hope you enjoyed that. All the products used will be listed in the description box below, and I hope to see you back on the channel soon. Keep an eye out for all the fun goodness coming in September. It's going to be a good one, and we look forward to seeing you back soon. Bye bye.